Hey, good afternoon, everybody. What's going on? It is Saturday, February the 22nd, 2025, 1:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the Voiceman Studios in Toronto, Canada. This is episode 316 of McRae Live. It's an all Q&A today. Just going to hang out for a little while and talk and see what you guys have to say, what's on your mind. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about today. The first two super chats came in. Let's get right to it, ladies and gentlemen. We got Josh McKenna sends in $1.99 and says, I got my It's Me Billy Chapter 2 poster. Amazing. Yes, I did send out all the posters have been sent out. The signed posters, the non-signed posters, the official posters, the teaser posters, the Chapter 1 posters have all been sent out. And next on the block are the hoodies and the t-shirts and the scripts and all that kind of stuff. So those will be coming soon. Great that you got it, Josh. Amazing. Josh follows up with $9.99 and says, I saw your post about watching a movie without looking at reviews. I tried that with Back in Action and I enjoyed it. Then I saw it had bad reviews. It's not Oscar worthy, but it's better than the reviews. Yeah, that's the one with what's his face and what's her face on Netflix, right? I haven't seen it. But yeah, I think it's a cool exercise. Like, I don't mean the post to suggest that that's how you should always watch movies. If that's how you always watch movies, that's great. But I think it's a fun exercise to watch a movie that you know that you don't know anything about. And for those of you that may not know, the exercise was simply to go to your streaming service of choice, Netflix, Prime, whatever. Find a movie you've never heard of, you know nothing about. That doesn't mean you have to find one that hasn't, a cast that you don't recognize or anything like that. You don't have to do that, but you just have to find a movie that you've never heard of, right? And you read the blurb, right? Because every streaming service has that little, 2 or 3 sentence blurb that tells you a bit about, what the movie's about. And if it interests you, right? It's basically a log line, essentially, a lot of these things. And if it interests you, then you just hit play, or you go make yourself dinner, you go get some snacks, whatever the case is. You don't look it up on Wikipedia first. You don't watch a trailer first. You don't go to IMDb first. You don't go to Rotten Tomatoes first. You do nothing. You just literally read the blurb and you hit play and you watch the movie. And it's a really cool exercise because I think most people today probably don't do that. If there's a movie that they come across where they do read the blurb and it does interest them, chances are, I'm not saying everybody, but chances are most people probably don't just hit play and start watching the movie. They will look it up. They'll get out their phones. They'll look it up on Wikipedia. They'll watch a trailer. They'll check out the Rotten Tomatoes scores because they need to know what to expect. Do I need to, should I invest 2 hours into this movie or not? It's like, well, yeah, because you shouldn't take the word of there's nothing wrong with getting a sense of what the general consensus is, but there's too many people in this world that make up their minds based on what other people say. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with having an idea. Maybe there's a critic you trust or, a reviewer you trust that you kind of, align with, but that should never prevent you from watching a movie. Because there's so many movies out there that never see the light of day because we're so inundated with just the general populist films like the superhero movies, and too many people make up their minds before. I mean, we live in a world now where there are YouTube channels dedicated to basically trashing a movie before it's even fucking been written. I mean, Disney can make an announcement, and because there's so much disdain for Disney, people make up their minds before the movie's even been cast. This is the world we live in now, right? And so, yeah, I think it's a cool exercise. Pretend it's 1995 if you're old enough to remember 1995. If you're not, well, then just pretend it's 1995, and where there was really no internet and, there was no social media. There was no Rotten Tomatoes. There was no space you could go to. There was no Wikipedia. The only sense you got of a movie was if you happened to see the trailers in the movie theater or a 30-second commercial on TV. That was it. And the only advertising you ever saw was in the entertainment section of a newspaper. And so I've talked about this before, but I think it's a cool exercise. That's how I discovered The Ritual. The Ritual. Now, maybe that's not how you discovered it, but that's how I discovered it. The Ritual is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Like literally of all time. I think it's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. Period. And it was about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm sick. I'm kind of feeling under the weather. I go to Netflix and I'm just, thumbnail surfing, as I like to call it. And I come across this movie called The Ritual. And I recognize the director. I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm like, I've never heard of this movie. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, so I just hit play. It's fantastic. That's how I also discovered Incident in a Ghostland. Loved it. I was like, had this major twist I didn't see coming at all. And I just was like, that was really good. That doesn't mean that you're going to, that every movie that you watch that way, you're going to enjoy. It doesn't mean that. But it's kind of fun because you're not, you don't go into movies with expectations, with, preconceived ideas. Because even though you might think you go into a movie with no expectations, no, you always go into a movie with expectations. It's just to what degree are those expectations? You can do your best to leave the expectations at the door. But even if you do that, it's always there. It might be a 1 out of 10 as opposed to a 9 out of, but the expectations are always there. If you watch a trailer, if you look it up on Wikipedia, if you look at the Rotten Tomato scores, if you watch movie reviewers, if you do any of those things before you've seen the movie, you literally cannot go in completely without expectations. That's not how your subconscious works, right? So you may think that's what you're doing, and you may, depending on how much information you have, will dictate, to what degree your expectations are, but you will always have them. The only way you can do it is to find a movie you've never heard of, you've never seen, you've never watched a trailer, you didn't know existed until literally 8 seconds ago when you saw it, on your streaming service, and you just hit play. And that's it. Right? And it's a cool exercise because I've often said that I think because of the inundation of all the nonsense that we get today in the online space, I think that, I think a lot of the movies that we hate today or don't like today or are told to hate today, we would probably actually really enjoy and like if it was 1995 or if it was 1987. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not constantly inundated with this noise. You know what I mean? It's dogs and bullshit. And how can you go into a movie? No, I'm gonna go into a movie. Like, how can I do that? How can anybody do that? You spend 8 months with fuck Disney, fuck Kathleen Kennedy. 8 months of that, and then like, no, I'm gonna go in. I'm just gonna watch it. I'm just gonna leave my expectations at the door. Get out of here! No, you're not. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You may hope that you like it better than what, but that's not how it works. So I think it's a cool exercise. And I've discovered some gems that way. Like I said, The Ritual, Incident in a Ghostland. If you haven't seen Incident in a Ghostland, watch it. Now, maybe you won't like it. Everybody's different. But man, I really enjoyed that movie. And maybe I wouldn't, my point is that if I read the reviews beforehand or I listened to people who didn't like it beforehand, maybe I wouldn't have liked it. Because I think I'm going in blind, but I'm really not. Anyway, I'm glad you liked the exercise. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like these people, right? For a year. Dog shit. I'm going to go in and just, I'm going to go in. Get out of here. Shut up. No, you're not. Okay. Let me see here. Sawade's Knight, one of our great members, been a member for 11 months, sends in a member chat, says, Dave, do you think the supposed flat earthers really believe the earth is flat, or are most of them just trolls? No, I think there are probably some that are just trolling, but I think that, no, there are. I mean, there are people that really do believe the earth is flat. Now, for some reason, the rest of the solar system is round, but we are flat. The moon is round, the sun is round, but for whatever reason, one of my favorite memes is the solar system, right? So you have, the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Earth, all that. and the only one that is flat is Earth. And the meme is, ooh, well, this is awkward. You know, and it's like, yeah, like, I mean, no, it's the Earth is round. It's always been round. It was proven objectively many moons ago, no pun intended. But there is a movement, a very loud minority, that do believe that the Earth is flat. There was a video. What was it? A video. It was recommended to me actually on YouTube, I guess because I was looking up something in regards to flat earthers. And it was this video where there was I'm a little hazy on the details, but it's something like this. Maybe you've seen it. There were these flat earthers and very popular in the community that were convinced that if they went to Antarctica, that because the Earth is flat, I mean, the sun would set at some point and all that. And I think I'm getting this right. Maybe I got it backwards, but I think I'm getting this right. And a scientist said, look, I will, or somebody said, listen, I will pay for you. It's a wild story. I will pay for you. We will go to Antarctica because you can. I mean, if you have the money, right, there are certain, we will go and you will see that the sun does not set. And they're like, no, fuck, no. So they did. They went and they had to eat some major crow. They did a live stream from Antarctica, and they're like, yep. So it's sun is not set here. I don't know what that means. Interesting. But the fascinating part about now, anybody normal would be like, hey. But of course, they can't, they have to be like, well, okay, that's a little strange, but I guess we got to go back to the drawing board. It must be something we're not getting right here. That thing you're not getting right is that the Earth is round. The Earth is round. That's what you're not getting right. It's, no, that's not it. The Earth is flat. The sun doesn't set in Antarctica. It's just so strange. It's very weird. It must be something I'm not calculating correctly. Yeah, because the Earth is round. Anyway, I firmly believe that a lot of them do believe that. But there are also people and that doesn't mean that there are not conspiracies in the world, folks. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I'm not one of those people that just buys into everything that I read or see. I'm not that kind of person. There are, things but flat Earth should not be the train that you should be riding into the station. Anyway, let me see here. Alex Shambach sends in $4.99. Thank you, Alec. And says, hey, Dave, I'm on my way to Calgary in Alberta from Pittsburgh. Amazing. Visiting Banff. Oh, Banff is beautiful. What's your favorite nature spot you visited? Oh, I don't know. I don't get out west very often. So I, like Vancouver has a beautiful, right in the heart, not at the heart of Vancouver, but it's called Stanley Park. It's beautiful. But I don't get out west very often, at all, really. So I would say that, there's a beautiful conservation. It's huge here in the province of Ontario called Algonquin Park. And it's ginormous. I mean, it's I don't know how many acres it is. How many acres is it? Let me just see here. How many acres? How big is Algonquin Park? It's 7,723 square kilometers, or 2,946 square miles. Let's see, how many acres? Maybe that'll be better for you. I don't know, it is, it's 1.9 million acres. So, very big park. And, it's beautiful. It's probably about 4 or 5 hours away from me here now. And I remember as a teenager, going there and canoeing and camping. And I mean, you're literally in the, real Canadian wilderness, right? Wolves and moose and anything else you can see. And I remember hearing the wolves at night, which was, the wolves at night were amazing. And then early in the morning, getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning in the summer when the sun is just about to come up, and hearing the loons. Oh, the loons. I can't do a loon noise, but you know what a loon... You know that sound? Oh, it's so eerie and haunting and beautiful at the same time. So yeah, Algonquin Park, I've never been to Banff or Jasper, which is another one. I've never been, but I'd love to go. I mean, I'd love to go. Thankfully, in Ontario, we don't have grizzly bears. We have black bears, though. We have black bears. Out west, you got to watch for the grizzlies. So be careful. Be very careful. Alex Shambach sends in $4.99. Oh, no, I already read that one. This is what I just read. Kevin Kruger, any relation to Freddie, sends in $1.99, says, would you taxidermy Veda? No, I would not do that. But you might want to ask her. I mean, maybe she'd be into it. Eddie Chase sends in $19.99, says, would Friday the 13th OG be more legendary or respected had Mrs. Voorhees been used like Scream 2 used Billy's mom, where she was a new reporter, Debbie Salt, like she was in disguise as Christie's assistant? Reveal would have been epic. Well, yeah, I think there's truth to that. You know, I think there's, a situation where you, look, the original Friday the 13th is one of my favorites of the franchise, 100%. I've always really liked it. One of my favorites for sure. And like, I like the original Friday the 13th probably a lot more than most people like the original Friday the 13th. Like, to me, it's like top 3. Yeah. And I don't think you could say that for most Friday the 13th fans. But I do recognize that if you're looking at it from the whodunit perspective, as Darren from Mr. Sandsman and the Slaughtered Man Slaughtered Man? That's not a bad one. I should create a rival channel, call it The Slaughtered Man. The Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast has said many times, and correctly so, that, well, it kind of plays out like a whodunit, but you never have the opportunity to figure out who did it until it's not like you're introduced to Mrs. Voorhees earlier in the film, and then, but there's this ensemble of people that it could be, and then, and that's true. That is true. So although it kind of plays out like a whodunit, the big reveal, you're kind of like, oh, okay, who are you? And I totally get that. For me, I do like that aspect of it, the mystery aspect of not knowing who the killer is. And I have years ago in the past probably incorrectly referred to it as a whodunit, although you kind of get the idea of what it, of what I'm trying to say. But had you introduced her earlier and made it a true whodunit, where you have the opportunity to figure it out, so the reveal is, oh, it's the so-and-so. Yeah, I think that would have been cool. I think that would have been cool for sure. I don't think it necessarily takes anything away from my enjoyment of the original Friday the 13th, because, again, I love the mood and the atmosphere and the eeriness and the cinematography. I really like that first movie, how dark and gritty it is. So, but to your point, yeah, no, it probably would have. Happy Sanjo sends in a member chat, and a member for 13 months. Thank you, Happy. And says, watch any good movies on streaming lately? I don't know. I'm trying to think of the last movie I watched on streaming. God, I don't know. I've watched something recently. Oh, I watched that new Anna Kendrick movie. Not the one that she directed. I still gotta watch that one. Woman of the Hour. I still have to watch that one. No, there was another independent movie she made. I think it was a Canadian movie, actually. It was a drama, and I watched that. I forget what it's called. Something Alice, actually. Something Alice, I think. Quite enjoyed that movie. I thought the performances were very good. Small, you could tell it was a small indie movie, low budget. Really, really cool. I like the fact that she did the movie. I like it when not that she's A-list, but I like it when, known actors who are working at a high level, at the Hollywood level, are open to receiving scripts on an independent level. And if it's a story that they resonate with, or a character that they're really attracted to, that they will do the film. And I think that's been happening for years and years and years. But I do like that she did it because it was a good story. It was a good little film. She's a good actress. So there was that one I watched. Alice Darling. That's it. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, good film. Good. I think was it a Canadian movie? Or maybe it was just shot up here. I know it was. I think it was shot in. Of course, a few years old now. It was 2022. It's a Canadian American co-production, psychological thriller drama. Yeah, that kind of sounds like Port Robinson Road, psychological thriller drama. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. So there was that one, but there was a couple others I watched after that, and I can't remember them now for some reason. And that's not because I didn't like them. Maybe it's because I just finished watching Cobra Kai, and I had to binge it because I really lost interest, I'll be honest with you, when I watched the first 4 episodes of the first block that was released. I kind of lost it. It's the same fucking thing over and over again. So I kind of lost interest. And then when they released the next 5 episodes leading up to 10, I didn't bother to watch them. So when they released the final 5 episodes, I had about 10 episodes I needed to binge watch. I didn't need to binge it. It's not like I'm doing, a review. But so I sat down and I watched all the rest of Cobra Kai. And look, they, as wonky as maybe the 6th season was at times, I do agree with those who say that they did land the plane. They brought it in. Those final few episodes were very much like, the first season. They brought it in, they landed the plane, and I really enjoyed it. It's really, even if you're not of my age and you're a lot younger, you'd probably enjoy the movie because it's very modern in terms of its, execution, performances, editing, all that kind of stuff. But certainly all, the Easter eggs and all the nostalgia for those who grew up with the Karate Kid movies is definitely there. So, but there's been some streaming movies I have watched. Maybe I should go to my Netflix. I don't watch Netflix on this computer, so it's possible that it might not even open up for me. Yeah, I'd have to sign in, and I don't think my sign in is correct. Oh, wait, hang on. Let me sign in. Is this going to work? Oh, okay, good. Let me just go here. And let me just quickly go to my recents. What are my recents here? Hang on a sec here. Why is it not showing me my recents? Weird. Anyway, if this is going to take too long, I'll just continue on. Why is it not showing me my recents? That's weird. Well, I did watch, but this was back around the holidays. I watched that movie with Jason Bateman, Carry On. I actually thought it was better than it had any right being. I actually quite enjoyed it, to be honest with you. And that was a movie I didn't watch a trailer, I just watched it. This is going to take too long. I don't know why it's not showing me my recents. But anyway, I have, but for some reason I'm having a brain fart. The Violator, 862, The Violator, sends in a member chat and says, been a while since I was able to catch a stream. Also, congrats to Canada on the hockey win. That's right. Team Canada. Oh, Canada, our home and native land. Canada with the big win the other night, 3-2 overtime, which sets up a great rematch for the Olympic Games a year from now. So that'll be, of course, more teams will be at play then, right? I wonder if the Russian team will be allowed to be in the Olympics. I don't know, but anyway, you'll have more teams. So although the Americans and the Canadians are the strongest in terms of their teams, Russia's, right up there. If they're allowed to play in the Olympics next year, basically what I'm saying is because it's not just 4 teams and it will be more teams, an American-Canadian gold medal game, although is generally always usually likely, it's not always guaranteed. It's more guaranteed when you have NHL players who are allowed to play in the Olympics, which they're going back to now. For the last 2 Olympics, I think, NHL players were not a part of it. So that obviously evens the playing field a little bit between all the countries. But when you get, the best players in the world, it can be pretty crazy. But yeah, it was a great game. Went to overtime. I mean, what could what more could you ask for, really, at the end of the day, right? Great shit. Yeah, really awesome. And of course, I'm happy Team Canada won, as somebody who is Canadian. And also I played hockey for 13 years growing up. And I was very good. I was a good hockey player. I was a captain of my team a couple of times, and I miss it. I miss playing hockey. I do. I miss it. I should get out there and find some beer league and just play with a bunch of middle-aged men. That's what I think that's what I need to do. But yeah, had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, and the game was a lot of fun the other day. All right, let me see here. I just don't want to miss anything. Hang on. Scroll down, been away. Robert Kitzmiller sends in a member chat. Thank you, Robert. And says, James Cameron is 70 and will be 77 at the end of Avatar 5. Do you think we'll likely see his 3D technology without the glasses by the end of the Avatar story? That's a great question. I don't know. Obviously, I'm a big James Cameron fan, another Canadian. And I'm a big fan of his Avatar movies. Unabashedly, I couldn't give a frog's fat ass what people think about the Avatar movies. I really enjoy them. And that's how you should be too. If you are a Halloween 5 fan, you own up to it and flex those pectoral muscles and say, I'm a Halloween 5 fan. I don't know. I know that James Cameron obviously has done 1, 2, and 3. There have been rumors that he is, at least I've read and heard, that his goal may be to pass off Avatar 4 and 5 and 6, or, however many more there are, to another director. Perhaps, obviously, doing the Avatar films, I can only imagine how demanding they would be, the schedules, just how grueling it would be. And so he is 70 and he's getting older, and that does wear on you. And he also might have a couple other films that he wants to do. And so it wouldn't surprise you, because I have heard or read this, that he's maybe thinking about passing the torch in terms of from the directing off to somebody else. Potentially. I don't know. Will we see his glasses-free 3D technology? I think you eventually will see it at some point. Whether it will become sort of it depends how good it is, and if it's a little too gimmicky. 3D is gimmicky anyway. Like, I hate 3D. I really do. Unless it's something like Avatar, because it was made for that was the whole point, right? Avatar, the world was so immersive. The effects were groundbreaking. We had never seen anything like that before. It literally, the technology that was created to make the first Avatar ceased to exist before that movie. Right? And some of the cameras that were made for Avatar 2 did not exist, right? Shooting underwater in the ways that they did. Because ordinarily when they shoot films they shoot people underwater. They're not really underwater, right? They're on wires, and, it's called shooting dry for wet, I think. And that's usually how it's done. I don't mean that they never shoot underwater, but generally that's usually how it's done. But how light, how the water refracts light, and how light shines into the water, and how certain, how you move, how you look, how hair looks underwater is something that we haven't been able to replicate. We're getting close, but not quite replicate yet with CG. And so Cameron wanted to fucking really shoot underwater. And so all those scenes in Avatar were really underwater, which is why it looks the way it does, is because, this really looks like these, because they're really underwater. And it was just amazing, what he was able to do. I don't necessarily think that the leap in technology and effects were another generation. I mean, it still, it still looked great, of course. But anyways, the point I'm making is that those movies are made for that experience because the world building is so immersive. Going to the movie theater to watch Star Wars in 3D is fucking pointless. Going to the movie theater to watch Spider-Man in 3D is goddamn pointless. It's not made for that. It's not shot for that. It's converted to it. And it's gimmicky. It's not like Friday the 13th Part 3 gimmicky, where they're putting things up to the camera. But I mean, it's gimmicky, and I hate it. I hate it. And thank goodness they're getting away from that now. And they're not, but it's like everything needs to be in 3D. But it was, I think it was done, you know, as soon as Avatar came out in 2009, you saw this trend of all these big blockbusters having screenings in 3D. And listen, I think it was just a way to charge more money, really, at the end of the day, because the experience is not any better. I don't care to see The Force Awakens in 3D. I don't care. I don't want to, and I didn't. But of course, you can charge more for 3D and make more money, right? And so, yeah, I just think so it would depend on how gimmicky it is. Is it intrusive? Is it lame? Is it just like 3D glasses, but without the glasses? Well, then who cares? You know what I mean? And I don't know. So short answer is, I don't know. Long answer is what I just gave you. Let me see here to make sure I'm not missing anything. Let me scroll down. The Violator 862 sends in a super chat. Thanks, buddy. $4.99 says, have you ever seen the 2003 film Open Water? I have. Watched it right before I was scuba diving in the Keys, and I was paranoid the entire time. Yes, I remember when that movie came out. Really great film based on a true story. You know, low budget indie. I think it was shot on mini DV, I think. Really home movie, you know, but it was well done. It was well done. And because it had that home, because it was done from the perspective of a home movie, essentially, until they get out into the open water, then it's kind of done from the perspective of a narrative. But it was interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was big when it came out. Of course, I think they've done a few sequels now, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. But I do remember when that first movie came out, and I rented it from the video store and watched it and enjoyed it. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the sequels or anything that's followed up with it, but yeah. All right, have I got all the super chats? I believe I have. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Let me go back here. Magic Marker says, Friday the 13th marathon on Pluto playing in the background all day while I write, but always happy to spend time with the epic Dave McRae. Well, thank you, Magic Marker. I appreciate that. And that's good. That's good that there's a Friday the 13th marathon on Pluto all day. Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Let me see here. Let me scroll back. I don't think I've missed anything. Friday 13th. Okay, let me scroll down, get back to where we were. Okay. Aaron Click, stop sending in so many super chats. No, why would they do that? People are free to send in super chats. If you want your question guaranteed, you send in a super chat. I know you're kidding, but you're not really kidding. And it supports the channel. Brandon Collins says, Violator. Oh, he's talking to Violator. Troy Grubb Jr. says, what's the movie with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher where Kevin Costner's character dies? I watched that first time a few years ago. I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe it's a baseball movie. How many baseball movies has Kevin Costner done? I don't know. Kenny Pham says, I don't care about anything right now. Sorry. I just had to get off my chest. You don't care about anything right now. You mean you don't care about any movies right now? You don't care about life right now? Well, then why are you here, Kenny? I mean, why are you here? Come on, Kenny, put a smile on that face. If you just needed to get it off your chest, I suggest you stand on your front lawn and you scream out to your neighbors, I don't care about anything right now. I just want to let you know I don't care about anything right now. Let me see. Let me get some. Eddie Chase says, Friday 13th is a very good film. Captures a great atmosphere and great POVs on its own. I just think it's a great reveal for the killer. Would have been a little better. That said, Betsy Palmer was great. There's lots they could have done that was better for sure. Oh, you know what? It's a good question, but I didn't follow any band. A guitarist dog says, what music bands did young Dave in high school listen to? Nothing specific. You know, like I have always been a big AC/DC fan. My favorite band. I got into them in the 80s. Thanks to my two older brothers who were big AC/DC fans. But when it comes to music, I mean, listen, I love AC/DC, I love Queen, I love CCR. I like honest to goodness, there isn't a band other than AC/DC that I do know a lot about and I have followed. There isn't a band or a singer that I like Elvis as well because of my dad. But there isn't a band or a singer that I followed. Like I haven't been to, I'll be honest with you, I haven't been to too many concerts in my life. Honestly, that might surprise some of you because there are people that go to concerts. Oh yeah, I saw Led Zeppelin, I saw AC/DC, I went and saw like The Who, and I saw like Coldplay, and then I went, like there are people that go to like concerts 3 or 4 times a year. I haven't been to a concert in like 20 years. You know what I mean? And it's not that I don't like music or I don't like bands. Concerts aren't really my thing, really at the end of the day. I'm not a big concert goer. Maybe it's because I don't know, being around the people and I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's just not my thing. I'd rather just listen to the music on my own, you know, zen. So there really wasn't a band that I followed. Now the bands of the 90s, like, you know, Nirvana and like all these bands, like, yeah, of course, Guns N' Roses and yeah, like I remember these. And I liked all their songs too. You know, like I would listen to them and they'd be at the high school dances or, you know, and of course in the 90s, dance music and, you know, techno and all that was really huge, right? So like, you know, like I like to Move It and, you know, Brooklyn Bounce and all the techno dance music of, you know, the 90s was huge. And it was always on my Walkman or my Discman. It was, well, in the 90s it would have been your Walkman. And, not that there weren't Discmen, but I'm just saying you were still in that transitional phase. Most kids had Walkmans. And so there really, like, I'm being honest, like there really isn't a band that I'm like, oh dude, yeah, fuck. Like I'm telling you right now, man, Alice Cooper, fuck, I had the shirts. I went to the thing. I Nirvana, man. I was down at their albums. I was never really, it sounds like such a cop-out answer, but it's the truth. I like anything. I don't care if it's metal, if it's, you know, hip hop, if it's top 40. I'll listen to Britney Spears if it's catchy. I really don't care. Like if it's catchy and it's got a great rhythm and a great beat, and I'm like, that's fucking great. I fucking love this. There's shit that I'm like, that is probably not cool to say, especially if you're a teenager. But I'm like, I'll fucking bob my head and fucking rock out to anything if I think it's really good, right? Like I don't care who it is. So my style of music is quite broad. Now, I can absolutely say that generally speaking, I'm not a big rap fan. I'm not a big hip hop fan. Like most rap and most hip hop doesn't really resonate with me. I'm not, you know, there's a lot of like, especially more the hardcore stuff, right? I'm just like, yeah, this is just not my jam. I didn't grow up with it. I can't relate to it. Do you know what I mean? So I can safely say there's a lot of that. Not everything though. Like every now and then if something comes on, I'm like, that's fucking dope, man. That's fucking awesome, right? But most of that type of music isn't really my jam. But I don't have like, there isn't a specific music that I always gravitate towards, and there isn't a specific type of music that I'm turned off by. You know, I mean, country music, if it's very twangy country music, yeah, probably not my jam, you know, but it might have to have more of a pop country to it, like a Shania Twain, you know, but I'll listen to anything. I really don't care. Like it doesn't, if it's good and I think it's great and it's got a great beat and great, you know, I'm there. So yeah, like I was probably listening to what everybody was listening to in the 90s. I'll just say that. Dawson McQueen sends in $10. Thank you, Dawson. Says, good afternoon, Mr. McRae. Have you heard of the new movie Clown in a Cornfield that is coming out in May? Great new original question. Thank you, Dawson McQueen. I have. I watched the trailer and meh. I don't know what. I'm not saying it's not going to be a great movie. Could be. I don't know. I haven't seen it. But the trailer looks like there was a couple of people like in the comments of the trailer. Dude, this fucking looks amazing. Holy fuck. I'm just like, looks amazing. Like, am I at that age now where I'm just a grumpy? I mean, I'm not even that old. You know, I'll be 46 in May. And I'm just like, am I at that age? This fucking looks amazing, dude. Bro. I'm like, Clown in a Cornfield looks amazing. I'm like, it looks like ass. Like I like the trailer itself. I'm just like, what? Like, are we that? Like, really? I don't know. Maybe ass is too hard of a word. I watched it and I was like, yeah, this just looks very pedestrian. Very pedestrian. And that doesn't mean it's not going to be good. Right? I'm not going to sit here and bash the filmmakers or bash the film. I have not seen it. But the trailer doesn't do anything for me personally, and I only speak for myself, to move the needle to a point where I'm like, oh, Clown in a Cornfield. Okay, this is one I want to watch here. Okay. No, it just looks like something that should be buried on Netflix, if I'm being honest with you. Like, I don't, you know, I don't know. It doesn't really, you know, for me, but, you know, I don't usually gravitate towards those kinds of movies anyway. So I'm probably not the right person to ask, but, you know, it just kind of looks pedestrian. You know, I don't think it looks awful. I don't think it looks amazing. It kind of looks kind of your typical low budget indie slasher clown movie, I guess. I don't know. Aaron Click says, I love a good concert. If it's a band I really love, it can be an almost transcendent experience. I totally understand that, for sure. Yeah, I can totally understand that. I think it's important, you know, that I clarify as well, that when I say I'm not a big concert goer, it's not that I obviously don't appreciate music. I love music, right? I love music. And I would absolutely go, like, if I was really into, of course. I'm just not a big, I think it's just the people, you know, it's just I'm not somebody that gets caught up in the, you know, the lighters, you know, and the this. I've never been that kind of person. And maybe that sounds a little like, Dave, you're a party pooper. You know, there's just certain people that's like, yeah, I don't need to be mosh pitting or there amongst the people at the front going, it's just not my style. You know, it's just not my style. Never has been. It's just part of my personality. I tend to, if I'm there in that kind of environment too long, I find it really fucking irritating and people get on my nerves. And I'm just like, fuck, I gotta get out of here. Like, this is just, I'm just like, I gotta, even though I respect and appreciate the excitement, because inside I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. I fucking get it. You know what I'm saying? I totally get it. But I remember, look, the very first concert I ever went to in my life was AC/DC's Stiff Upper Lip concert in 2001. I was 22 when I went to my first concert. That's just to show you, right? And I went with my brother Neil, who'd been to many concerts. And I've told this story before, but my dad got tickets. He was able to get tickets. We got, you know, we were 14 rows from the stage. Amazing. My first time seeing, I was really excited. Like, I'm really excited. I'm really excited. I would have been totally happy sitting on my chair and just enjoying the concert. Be like, this is fucking great. It was my brother Neil, shout out to my brother Neil, who had to turn to me and say, yeah, you're not going to, like, if you want to sit the entire, you won't see fuck all. Because as soon as AC/DC comes out, everybody's going to stand up and everybody's going to be standing for the next 90 minutes or, you know, or 2 hours, right? And I'm just like, oh, fuck, I got to stand for this fucking shit. I'm like, all right. Woo! You know, I'm just like, I would just, because I more internalize it. And again, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean I can't be the life of a party. Okay. You get me at like a party or at like a wedding or, high school dance. You know what I mean? I was the fucking life of the party, man. Dancing it up, having fun and all that kind of stuff. So it's a bit of, I know that might seem a bit strange. Maybe there's some people that are watching that are totally like me and totally get what I'm saying. And maybe there are people looking at me going, I don't understand what you're saying right now, Dave. You're very alien to me. Maybe that's the case too, but I'm very weird that way. I love music and I feel all the same things that people go on, wah, all do. I feel it. I'm there with you. But for whatever reason, those big, large environments, like big concerts, I'm just like, there's only so much I can take of it. There's only so much I can take of it. I would rather rock out and cut up a dance floor at like a wedding or, back in the day. Like, listen, high school dances, I used to fucking dance out the shit, man. It used to be so much fun. So I love music. But at a big concert with like 80,000 people, I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm just like, fuck, I just want to go home. This is too much. It's too much. It's only so much I can take. There's only so much I can take. It's kind of like how Darren feels about noise, and kids and the Goonies. There's only so much yelling. I gotta shut up. Guys, shut up. There's only so much. There's only so much. There's probably so many people that just cannot relate to me. The Violator 862-499. Thanks, buddy. Says, what's your opinion on Kanye West Ye? Yeah, I heard he changed his name to Ye. I don't know. I'm a fan of his music, but it's genuinely hard being a fan of the man sometimes. Well, I mean, listen, I obviously know who Kanye West is. I've heard a couple of his songs. I like a couple of his songs, if I'm being totally honest with you. I don't know which ones they are, again, because I don't follow him. I'd have to hear it and be like, oh, yeah, that one. Yeah. I didn't know he changed his name to Ye until he was in some hot water, a week or two ago? Why did they do Ye? Ye. Okay, Ye. These people anyway. Yeah, so I don't really know anything about him, really, other than, obviously the shit that's been going down. And it can be hard. It can be hard for people to separate the artist from the art. It's genuine. Generally speaking, it's not difficult for me to do that. Like I can still watch a Kevin Spacey movie. I can still listen to Michael Jackson's music. I can still... and I know that he was acquitted and all that kind of stuff. I tend to still feel that there was something going on. But that's a whole other show. But no matter who it is, I generally can separate the artist from the art. But, it can be tricky sometimes, right? Depending on how awful, truly awful, whatever the situation is. And so, I respect both sides. Like I can, if somebody says, no, I can still listen to his music because I really like his music. I can respect that. And if somebody was to say, I just can't do it. I wouldn't be somebody, even if I felt inside, well, I think it's a little extreme. I wouldn't ever be like, no, I'd be like, well, I get it. Like I can intellectualize that. I totally understand it. So yeah, it kind of, it can get tricky. It can get tricky, right? It can get tricky. Tricky. Flick Symmetry. What's going on, Tim? Tim! My man, Tim! Lots of songs about pickup trucks. Michael Dammit says, I refuse to listen to polka. Polka. What's that from? Name the movie. What's this from? Polka. Come on. You know it, you bastards. You know it. Robert Thinoff says, Dave, do you like the song in Smile 2 called I Need a New Brain? Great tune. I did see Smile 2. Probably, but I would have to listen to it again to be like, oh yeah, that I don't remember it. So I'd have to listen to it again. I'd have to. Let me see. Did I miss anything? Hang on. I was talking a lot there. Did I miss any super chats? Violator 862, Dawson McQueen. No, I have not. Okay. Just want to make sure. I haven't missed anything, ladies and gentlemen. Blah, 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 blah. Aaron Click laughs and says, I get it. There have been some concerts I would have preferred to sit, but like you said, I wouldn't have been able to see crap. Yeah, it's so funny. I just remember my brother Neil, like he turned to me and he's like, because I'm sitting there and I'm excited. I'm really excited. You know, I'm excited. It's my first concert. I'm 22 years old. It's AC fucking DC. You know, I'm like, you know, and 14 rows because of what my dad obviously, you know, did for a living. He has connections, and 14 rows from the stage. I'm like, this is amazing. You know, the catwalk is like right beside us. I'm like, God, I'm going to be seeing like Brian Johnson, bells, you know. It's going to be amazing. Like inside, I'm that guy going, Rah! You know what I mean? And I would be that person at like a smaller, you know, like I said, like high school dance, wedding, you know, whatever. But in a concert, I'm just like, oh, this is great. I'm going to sit here. And I just remember my brother Neil, he's like, yeah, no. So I had to stand up, and I did. I stood up, you know, because my brother was there too, right? So he was kind of, you know, show me the ropes, because he'd been to a lot. I think he had been to a couple of AC/DC concerts, actually. And so he was the perfect person to go with, really, at the end of the day. Like, I mean, I thought about going with, you know, my friends and things like that, but I think they were busy or didn't want to go, or I don't know what it was. But my brother Neil was like, yeah, I'll go. And he was the perfect person to go with. We had a great time. We had a great time. Actually, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. I should bring that up the next time I talk to him. But it was a lot of fun, and obviously a memory that I've cherished for a long time. But yeah, but I did. I stood up and I whatever, I clapped, whatever I did. But I wasn't one of those people that are just like, I'm just like, yeah, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. All the power to those who can, though. But inside, my heart's going, bum, bum, bum. Oh my goodness. Home Alone. Yes, that's right. Chester Franklin Jr., 5 G's of horror. John Candy, that's right. Home Alone, polka, polka. I always love that line in Home Alone, and I find it so funny because he's like, I'm paraphrasing now, but he's like, you know, such and such, polka of the Midwest. You know our hits, right? Polka, 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 polka. Like that would be, it says, I don't know if he improvised that, but it's so funny because he's not really saying anything. He's saying the name of the genre as part of trying to, like, that'd be like me saying, you know, that rock band, you know, or no, it'd be like saying, you know, that classical piece of music, you know, classical, you know, it's like, it's just so, what? No, I don't know that song. It's polka, polka. It's so dumb. You know that heavy metal song? You know, heavy metal. Like, no one, like, it's so funny. I fucking love it. I love it. It's so good. Robert Kitzmiller. I saw John Stamos drum with the Beach Boys back in '93 when I was 5. My dad was super giddy. That's fun. Well, you know what? I said my first concert was when I was 22, AC/DC. Technically, that's not true, but it is true because it was the first concert. Okay, so technically my first concert was Bare Naked Ladies, the Canadian band Bare Naked Ladies. And they made it, you know, big in the US as well. So you probably know who I'm talking about. And but it wasn't a concert that I paid for. Not that I paid for the AC/DC one either, but it was part of like, so it was the early 90s, and I was at the Ottawa Rough Riders football game of the CFL, the Canadian Football League. My dad was there covering the game, and I was there with I don't think it was Bruce. I think it was another friend of mine. And after the game was done, the Bare Naked Ladies were doing a concert. So if you were there for the game, you got a free concert from the Bare Naked Ladies. So I didn't go to the game to see, like, I didn't go to see the Bare Naked Ladies. I knew who they were. You know, if I had $1 million, you know that song, right? That's not the tune at all, but woo! But you know, So it was big. Like they were big. I knew who they were, obviously. But I didn't go to the game for them. I went to the game because of the football game, and my dad was there. And yes, he got us in for free, obviously. So technically that was because we stayed. And it was fun. I had a good time. It was fun. And that's not a concert where people are like, I mean, that's not, people are not doing that. So that was all right. That was all right. And so like technically that was my first concert, I guess. But I always put my first concert to the AC/DC one in 2001, or 2000, I should say. Because that was one that I went for the concert. There was no football game. I mean, that's like saying your first concert was, Michael Jackson in 93 at the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, no. The halftime show doesn't count. I mean, okay, technically you're seeing like a mini concert of like 15 minutes, but you didn't go for, maybe you went for, but you know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. So that's why I don't really include it. But if you want to get technical, yes, the Bare Naked Ladies, I guess, would have been my first concert, but Scared Straight Production says, if they somehow went backwards and stopped streaming and Making Dads went straight back to VHS releases, could you get back into that? Making Dads went straight back to VHS releases? Are you just saying that, could I get back into VHSs if they made VHS again? Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's an era I grew up in. I'm not one of these people that, and maybe I should be more, but I appreciate 4K. Obviously, I appreciate a great picture. And, obviously I have 4K and the TV and I mean, it's, it's amazing. But I'm not one of those people that get so dialed in and locked in that I have to watch everything in 4K. Like my subscription to Netflix isn't 4K, it's HD. And most of the movies I watch are just in HD and it's fine. Like I don't sit there and go, oh, this is this shit. This 1080p is shit. This 1080p is dog shit. Like, I'm sorry. And maybe it's just me. But when you went from VHS to DVD, there was a big difference. It was like, wow, right? A big difference. When you went from DVD to Blu-ray, really big difference. Like, you noticed that difference. I remember the first time I watched Jaws on Blu-ray, I was like, wow, the picture's so clean and crisp. And I remember thinking to myself, it's so clean and so crisp that it looks like the production value of a modern film. That's how clean it looked to me. I was very impressed. I was like, wow. I don't think the jump, even though in terms of pixels, it is, for whatever reason, to me, the jump from Blu-ray to 4K is not nearly as impressive as the jump from DVD to Blu-ray, right? It's really noticeable, right? Or VHS to DVD. Maybe it's just me, but when I watch Jaws on 4K or Jaws on Blu-ray, I'm like, I don't really, like, I guess, sure, but it doesn't wow me the way it did when I pop in a Blu-ray for the first time. When I popped in a Blu-ray for the first time, I was like, wow. When I watch Halloween on 4K, yeah, it's crispier. I see more of the grain, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but I'm not like, whoa. Oh, when I watched Halloween on Blu-ray for the first time, I was like, wow. You know what I mean? And so it doesn't, like, I appreciate it. I appreciate the technology. I do. I appreciate it. I buy 4K. I still buy Blu-ray as well. But I've never really, I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I don't know. But I'm just being honest that I am perfectly happy watching Netflix in HD. Like, I don't ever watch a Netflix movie in HD and go, this just doesn't, I'm not getting the full thing here. No, not at all. Not at all. I don't feel that way at all. But that's me. It'd help if you took the top off, Dave. You know what? I will say, though, I would have loved to have seen Michael Jackson in concert. Back in the 80s, would have loved to have seen Michael Jackson in concert. For sure. Let me see. Have I missed anything? No one has said anything. I haven't missed anything. No. Okay, good. Just want to make sure, because when I get talking a lot, the chat room moves, and sometimes I miss things, but I don't think I did. Aaron Click says, you're right, Dave, but on a really good OLED 4K TV, the difference between standard Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD Ray movies is more pronounced. It is, but it doesn't impress me. Like, it doesn't, it's more pronounced, but I'm not like, I'm just speaking for myself. Yes, you are absolutely right. Because I see it. I own one. And so it's very clean and crisp and wow, like, yes, but it doesn't, there wasn't that factor for me going from Blu-ray to 4K and going, holy shit. Right? Like and you guys, remember, I mean, VHS to DVD, it was holy shit, right? DVD to Blu-ray was holy shit. Blu-ray to 4K, it's like, oh yeah, okay. But I'm not like, the introduction of like going to Blu-ray made me want to buy everything on Blu-ray. Going to 4K has not made me want to buy everything on 4K. Like if I have to watch a movie in HD, I'm like, it's fine. It's HD. It's high definition. It's high definition. It's fine. Looks great. Looks great. So I think it's just not, it's not like you're watching some 1938 silent. I mean, it looks great. It's high definition. And yes, 4K is better. Objectively, absolutely. And you do notice it. It's just, I find it not as impressive, right? But that's just me. Let me see here. Brandon Collins says, my first concert was John Williams and the Boston Pops. Ooh, with Itzhak Perlman. Is that Itzhak? This was right after Schindler's List, and he conducted it in front of a giant movie screen. Magical night. Now that would have been really cool. Yeah, when I was growing up, I was very into, scores and I probably listened to more movie scores than like bands, to be honest with you. I remember lying in bed at night when I was a teenager and just listening to movie scores. Honestly, not even soundtracks, like songs, like just movie scores. That would have been really cool. What a very cool experience to have, for sure. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave, when do you think the 4K of Jason Goes to Hell will come out? I have no idea. I mean, have they released any of the 4Ks of any of the Friday the 13th movies? I don't know. I know they released that big box set on Blu-ray, but have they released any of the Friday the 13th movies on 4K? I don't really know. Have they? I'm not sure. You son of a bitch. Good question. Let me scroll back. Jacob Cornthos says, plenty of great artists are terrible people. That's true. Polanski, Bergman. Yeah, that's true. Woody Allen. Yep. It's just something you accept or you don't. It is true. There are a lot of people, but I mean, there's a lot of great people too as well. I think one of the things that people have, and I understand it, that people should always remember is that two things can be true at the same time. Kevin Spacey is an amazing actor, objectively. I mean, he's won, I think, 2 Academy Awards, if I'm not mistaken, at least 1. He's a great actor. He's terrific. And is he a bit of a piece of shit? Yeah, probably. That doesn't mean that everybody who's successful and talented is like that. Of course not. But two things can be true at the same time. When it comes to Michael Jackson, obviously that's a very hot button issue for a lot of people. A lot of people will defend him, and if you even speak ill of him because he's dead, it's real venomous. But I'm not afraid to say that I am somebody that yes, I do, and I love Michael Jackson. I've always loved Michael Jackson, always. But do I believe, despite his acquittal, Do I believe that there is enough circumstantial evidence to suggest that there was likely something wildly inappropriate going on? Yes, I do. I do believe that there was likely something inappropriate going on. But that's how I feel. And you will never be able to change my mind on that. He's dead now. So, it is what it is. But that doesn't change the fact that I can still acknowledge he's one of the greatest entertainers to have ever lived, And so, there's lots of, look at Bill Cosby, right? Bill Cosby, one of the great entertainers, America's dad, in the 80s. I mean, a great show. The Cosby Show was terrific, well written, great morals, great messages. He was great on it. And look at Cosby, right? You know what I mean? Two things can be true at the same time. And once you realize, now that doesn't mean that two things are always true at the same time. That doesn't mean that everybody who's great is a scuzz-sucking piece of crap, and that everybody who's a scuzz-sucking piece of crap is talented. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that people should not be blinded by their projection of their heroes, right? There are a lot of, it can be very difficult for people to, especially if they are on a level of a Cosby or a Jackson or, whatever the case is, it can be very difficult for people to, accept that their hero may be a real piece of shit person. And that's difficult for people to accept, right? It's very hard, which is why you see so much pushback with a lot of people. But Michael Jackson was acquitted, but so was O.J. Simpson. And so, you can't, I mean, there's a lot of crazy shit out there. We'll just say that. Super chat comes in from Lee the Machine Bowers, ladies and gentlemen. Lee the Machine Bowers sends in $4.99, says, Dave, my man, happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to you. It's Drew Barrymore's 50th birthday today. It is. Well, happy 50th to Drew. I'll be there in a few years. What is your favorite Drew Barrymore movie? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. A favorite movie she's in or a favorite movie that she's led? Because you could say my favorite Drew Barrymore movie is E.T. Well, that's not really her movie. I mean, I don't know. I don't dislike Drew Barrymore. I'm sort of neutral to Drew Barrymore. When I think of Drew Barrymore, I think of E.T. I think of Tom Green, another Canadian, Tom Green, who is from Ottawa. I think of her standing on David Letterman's desk and flashing David Letterman in the mid-90s. Obviously, she has her own talk show now. I think she's a little, I think she lays on the emotions a little thick. She's a little extra in terms of, I really, how she gets when she gets all emotional. Not in her movies, but I mean on her talk show. But listen, she seems like a very sweet woman. Obviously, a scream queen for Scream. But I'm a little neutral on her. I don't dislike her. I don't love her. I don't think I've watched enough of her movies to really come to a conclusion. So I'm not really sure. Like, she was in 50 First Dates, right? Did I see 50 First Dates? I can't remember. I'm just kind of neutral on her. Like, she's just one of those names. You're like, oh yeah, Drew Barrymore. Like, she was an 80s, 90s, teen kind of icon. You know what I mean? But beyond that, I don't really, I'm sort of neutral on her. But I don't dislike her. So it's hard for me to pick a movie, I guess. Let me see here. Let me scroll back. Scroll back. John Williams, yes. I'm just scrolling back to see Michael, damn it, crispier. Thought that happened in Halloween too. Well, it's crispier. And I don't think everything looks good when it's, as you guys know, transferred to 4K or Blu-ray. Because those movies were not, I mean, they were shot on film. So it's a higher resolution than VHS. But some of these old movies that are getting released on 4K, and I'm just like, yeah, it just feels very, I don't know. I'm not a fan. 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 Kevin Kruger says, are you a fan of Corey again? Corey? That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, Corey Haim. Am I a fan of Corey Haim again? Was I a fan before? I know who he is, obviously, and he's passed away, and, you know, he was one of those 80s kids, but I'm neutral. I don't dislike him, don't like him, I'm just kind of neutral on him. Kind of quiet today. I thought there'd be more people in here, but there's only 50 people in here right now. That's what happens when you don't talk about Halloween. That's what happens when you're not talking about Halloween. People are like, I don't care. It's like, all right, well, then you don't care, and I don't care. You know what's funny though? I think when it comes to, you know, separating yourself or separating from you know, the artist and the art, it can be tricky for a lot of people. And then some people get one of the things though, again, just to reiterate, is that I think one of the big problems comes from people that just don't. I think part of the Michael Jackson thing, and I know he was acquitted, I get that. But when it comes to Jackson, look, I mean, obviously he was strange, but that doesn't mean that he was, you know, what. But there was a lot of things that were unusually strange and weird and a little over the line, you know. And yeah, I do believe, I don't know to what degree, but I do believe there was inappropriate behavior. I do believe that. And no rabid Michael Jackson fan is going to be able to convince me otherwise. And I don't think it is speaking ill of the dead to state my opinion. There's a lot of things that people will say, but he's dead. Oh, okay, he's dead. Yeah, I can still have a fucking opinion about it. You know, like, okay, he's dead. Yeah, I'm not, that's my opinion. And that's how I feel about it. You know, you can't speak ill of the dead. I can speak however the fuck I want about the dead. They're dead. You know, and so I don't subscribe to this idea that you know, you shouldn't speak about it. You shouldn't state your opinions on it, even if somebody was acquitted, right? I don't believe that. I think these are now. Is anything going to happen? Well, no, because he's dead. But I think you should be allowed to state your opinions to whatever degree that you want to state them on, and if somebody, you know, like for example, if somebody was to say, you know, I think Michael Jackson's a piece of shit, a big childlike piece of shit. That's their opinion. Oh, you shouldn't say that. He was acquitted. No, they should say that because that's their opinion. And that's how they feel about it. You know, and whatever platform they're doing it on, let them do it. So what? So what? This idea that, you shouldn't say, no, you say whatever the hell you want. You know, I mean, of course, that doesn't mean there's not consequences, of course, but I just mean that this idea that when someone is stating an opinion, they're somehow speaking ill of somebody else. It's like, well, no, they're just stating an opinion, you know? And like I said, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan, big Michael Jackson fan. Chester says, Dave, what is your favorite scene from Halloween 3 that Dean Cundy did? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the opening of the film. When our character is running, you know, underneath the overpass and the music is playing and all that kind of stuff. Great moment there. Great moment there for sure. Yes, that's right. Scared Straight Productions. The Goonies is getting a sequel. It's in development with Spielberg producing. This doesn't excite me at all. You know, I couldn't care less. We'll see what happens when Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the idea, because I kind of already know what it's going to be. You know, like I don't think there will be any surprises. This is going to be about getting the legacy characters and it's either going to be the legacy characters and their children, which is very weird because their children would be in their 20s now, right? I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, I mean, the legacy characters are all in their 50s. So, you know, they're getting to the age where their children could have children. So, I mean, you know, I'm not that, but I mean, they'd be young, but I just mean like, you know, I mean, I'm nearly 46. I could have a kid right now who's 20 years old. I could have a kid who's 22 or 23 years old right now. And that kid could have a kid, right? Like, I mean, really, if you think about it, I am of that age. And so, it's not unprecedented is what I'm saying. So I don't think it's going to be about the kids. I mean, it could be. I mean, it could be. But it's either going to be one of a couple things. It's going to be about the kids and their kids, or it's going to be about these new group of teenagers that have nothing to do with the kids, but they have to seek out the Goonies to, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be about the Goonies going on another adventure, just them. These middle-aged, 50-year-old, you know, overweight guys, you know, going on, you know, that's not what it's going to be about. You know, actually they're all in, you know, well, Sean Astin's a little tubby. But most of them I think are in decent shape. But it's not going to be about these middle-aged guys going on this adventure. Right? It's just, I don't think that, because that's never really what a legacy sequel is, because you want to appeal to a new generation. So the Goonies 2 is likely, like I can get, like, you know, like I said months and months and months ago, I said this, I know what you did last summer sequel is not going to be about Freddie Prinze and Jennifer Love Hewitt together, and it's just them, the focus is on them, and it's going to be no, it's going to be about a new group of kids, and I'm not saying anything that's rocket science, I'm just saying, right? And what came out? Freddie Prinze Jr. said, yo, I just want to let you guys know we're not the focus. So yeah, it's going to be about a new group of kids who have to seek out Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. And then because that's just because you need to appeal to a larger audience. If you just do it about Josh Brolin and, you know, Q1, whatever his name is, you know, and Corey Feldman and, you know, what's his name? I just said his name. Sean Astin, and, you know, there are kids, there are people that have no idea who the hell these people are, right? And so if you want to appeal, if you're going to make it that family-friendly adventure film again, you want to appeal to kids of today, right? And so you can't just make it about the older guys. And so it will be about their kids, if you want to have them as teenagers, which you can do. You can totally do, because you don't have to play, you know, just because you're 52 years old, you don't have to play, you know, you can be, a 52-year-old can have a teenager. I get it. So it will likely be about their kids, and their kids get into shenanigans and they discover who their parents were. Our parents were the Goonies. Our parents found the One-Eyed Willie treasure. And then a new adventure comes and they have to go and the parents have to get in on it. And like, our kids, when I was your age. I mean, we know what this is going to be. And so I just kind of feel that it's way past its due date. That doesn't mean the movie's not going to be good. Maybe they'll do it and we'll be like, oh, this is great. They'll have nostalgia, Easter eggs, you know, it's going to appeal to middle-aged men like me. And it's going to be like, yeah, this is great. But overall, it's like, who cares? I mean, if you're going to have a Goonies sequel, they should have had it in 1987, right? 1988. You know what I mean? When the kids were still young enough to be Goonies. You know, now it's just like, okay, like, yeah, I'll be there, of course, because I'm a big fan of the Goonies. Unlike Darren Sands, I am one of those people that am a fan of the Goonies. And it was one of my favorite movies from the 80s. But do I want to see them now? I mean, I'll be there, but it doesn't overly excite me, I'll say. It doesn't overly excite me. I would be a little more excited if Spielberg was directing, but the amount of movies that Spielberg produces today is like, he doesn't have a say in half the shit he produces. I mean, not that he doesn't have, he's not consulted, but I just mean he's producing so much shit now that he cannot, like, it doesn't, his name on it doesn't really mean anything, really. If he was directing the film, then I'd be like, okay. And not that it doesn't mean anything. I just mean that, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm not overly excited for it. I'm not like, I'm like, oh, this is cool. That's cool. But it's probably about 30 years too late, or 35 years too late. All right, how much time we got? About another 5 minutes. We'll go another 5 minutes, and then we'll call it an afternoon. Good show today, though. Good show today. Not too many people today in the chat room, which is a little disappointing, but that's what happens, though. That's what happens when... although I do understand it, though, from a certain perspective, because I do Q&As in every show that I do. So these shows aren't really special, I don't think, to people, because, every show I do, I spend about half an hour, 40 minutes doing a Q&A. So I think some people are like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll just catch it afterwards. You know what I mean? So I can understand that. Let me see here. Guitarist Dog says, one of my favorite moments in Halloween 78 is after the bullies trip Tommy and Michael politely catches one of them from running. Yeah, that's Mickey Yablans. That's Erwin Yablans' son. Who he catches, or who he runs into, we'll say, stops him from running into him. Yeah, that's a great moment. That's a great moment for sure. Yeah. Brandon Collins says Spielberg isn't as hands-on as a producer as he used to be. Once he created a movie studio, he became more of a mogul who also directs. That's true. Yeah. DreamWorks Pictures. Yeah, and he's not as hungry as he was either, right? I mean, when Spielberg sprung onto the scene in the early 70s, and obviously with Jaws as the iconic blockbuster it became, Spielberg was only 28 years old when he shot Jaws. And, Spielberg was hungry. He was still making a name for himself. And so, the movies he produced in the 80s, there's a few movies he produced in the 80s that you have to be quite careful about that, because he almost semi-directed them. And I don't give a frog's fat ass what anybody says. And I know Spielberg, and it was the right thing to do because Spielberg is professional and a class act. He's not going to throw Tobe Hooper under the bus. But I don't care what anybody says, okay? And there have been a few people that have come out in defense of Tobe Hooper, and there have been a few people that have come out that have worked on the film that have also gone against it, that have said, nah, it was kind of, and I know that this is this is a hot take in the horror space. I would be chastised by horror fans around the world for, what they would deem as me talking ill about Tobe Hooper. I am not talking ill about Tobe Hooper. I have nothing against Tobe Hooper. He gave us one of the most iconic horror movies of all time in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He had a couple other horror films that, were pretty good. I don't have anything bad. I have nothing against him. This is not personal. But Tobe Hooper never in his entire career directed a movie before that was like Poltergeist and after that was like Poltergeist. Poltergeist has Spielberg's DNA all over it. All over it. It feels like a Spielberg film. It looks like a Spielberg film. It plays like a Spielberg film. It smells like a Spielberg film. It sounds like a Spielberg film. The characters are developed like a Spielberg film. All over it. Spielberg was shooting E.T. at the same time that he was shooting, or that they were shooting Poltergeist in the same lot or close by. There's pictures of little Carol Ann and Drew Barrymore on set together. I mean, Spielberg is all over that movie. There's people that have worked on the movie that come into Tobe Hooper's defense, 100%. And I'm not saying that Hooper didn't direct it. Like, don't misunderstand me, right? I'm not saying that Hooper just sat on his ass and didn't say anything and didn't direct the film at all. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. But to simply say that Spielberg had no, Spielberg was, he just was there, no, because there are people that defend Tobe Hooper to the degree of, what are you talking about? Spielberg wasn't there. It was on set, okay, but it was all him, it was totally him, all him, he did all totally. No way. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. What happened? Hooper never made another hit again. He never had a movie that even came close to what Poltergeist was. And I don't just mean in like box office. I mean in feel and tone. It was beautifully shot, it was beautifully directed. It was like, this is amazing. It feels like Spielberg. And you cannot deny that. Anybody who watch, you go, yeah, this feels like a Spielberg movie. Now, of course, Spielberg wrote the story. It was based on a story. He was going to shoot it, actually. He was going to direct it. And people were there who Alex Shamrock says, why is Hooper given majority of the credit? I genuinely don't know. Because Spielberg, because he did direct the movie. Hooper did direct the movie. He was there. He was listed as the director. The Guild, absolutely. He's there on set. He directed the movie. He would have been there in the meetings. He would have been saying action. He would have been calling. He would have been speaking. You know, of course, again, that comes back to, I'm not saying that Spielberg directed the film. Like he was there every day on set, right? And Spielberg is sitting in the director's chair going, okay, and action. No, he's not doing that. He can't do that. Right? I mean, maybe if Hooper went to the bathroom to take a shit or something and he needed, you know, but that's not what happened, right? Hooper was involved. Hooper directed the movie. But this is not a black and white situation. I do not believe that Spielberg had very little influence. No, well, just because he was on set doesn't. He was heavily influencing. There's photos of Spielberg speaking to Craig T. Nelson, like, he's talking to him and he's doing this and he's showing all, and he's there and he's on set and he's doing that. He was there. His influence at that time was massive. And he was a producer on the film. And Spielberg's influence at that time was huge. This was, like, people who do, I mean, you forget, Spielberg is a synonym for Hollywood. That's how massive this man is. If you're younger, you might not know it now because you grew up and most of the Spielberg is the Spielberg of the 2010s or something like that. But Spielberg, in my opinion, is the greatest filmmaker of all time, not just because of the films he directed, but because of his influence, his pop culture influence, his footprint. And it's not just the movies he directed, it's the movies he produced. We forget. He didn't just, all the movies he directed, but he produced Poltergeist, Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future 3, Gremlins, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, these are just movies he produced. Right? And so, and the list goes on and on and on. It was massive. He's from a commercial standpoint, okay, I know there are auteurs and film pundits that would not look to Spielberg as the greatest because, he's a populist filmmaker. And I should say that from the populist filmmaker standpoint, right, from the Hollywood studio system, populist filmmaker standpoint, it's, yes, we can get into Kubrick and we can get into more of the artsy-fartsy auteurs. Okay, fine, yes. And I love Kubrick, don't get me wrong. But from the main big machine, Spielberg's the GOAT. And at that time in 1981, he had just come off of Close Encounters, Jaws, Raiders. I mean, he was like this, like what the, like nobody had ever seen anything like this before. It was a very, very different time. And there he is creating E.T. and he's on the set of, he would go, because he's a producer. And at that time, as Brandon said, he was a very hands-on producer. He was a very hands-on producer, and Tobe Hooper was not near the talent or the cachet of Steven Spielberg at that time. And so, these things can be nudged and molded and massaged in ways that are inconspicuous, that are subconscious, right? You know what I mean? We don't know the conversations that Spielberg had with Tobe Hooper. Spielberg would have likely have had notes and just kind of thoughts. And hey, how about you try this? Or, maybe that. Or, Hooper may have said, well, I'm thinking about doing this. I really want to do this. And Spielberg may have said something like, that's a really great idea, and you could also maybe add that and that to it as well. You know what I mean? And Hooper might be like, that's a good idea. It's not that Hooper's footprint is non-existent. And I think because we live in a black and white world, there are people that think, when people say that, because people say Spielberg, he directed the movie, Hooper didn't direct it. Well, that's not true either. That's not true either. That's a very black and white thing. It's much more nuanced. It's much more gray than that. Of course, Tobe Hooper directed the movie, but Spielberg's influence, his influence is all over the movie. And generally speaking, you don't see a producer's voice, Spielberg's voice and his style and his imprint and his look and feel and tone. You don't see it like that on a movie that he just produces, right? When you look at Back to the Future, you feel the Spielberg magic, but it's very much a Zemeckis film. Right? When you watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you feel that Spielberg magic, but it's very much a Zemeckis film. Do you know what I'm saying? When you watch Gremlins, you feel you feel that Spielberg magic. You do. But it's very much a Joe Dante film. This is not a Tobe Hooper film. Like, this is, when you look at Tobe Hooper's filmography before and after, this is the anomaly. This is the weird one that stands out that he never did again. In tone, in style, in success, in craftsmanship, in filmmaking. Like, it's weird. It's just weird. And so it's an anomaly that and I've always felt that way. This is not a bandwagon thing. I've been talking about this since the 90s. Now I just have a platform to express it. You know what I mean? So I'm not one of those people that's just jumping on a bandwagon. I've always felt that way. Now, Steven Spielberg absolutely did the right thing. He came out, he made that note, he wrote that note that said, no, Tobe Hooper absolutely directed the film. It is his movie and his, ideas and movie, whatever he said there, right? That is the right thing to do. It is professional. It is courteous. You absolutely do. He's the producer. He's his producer. You absolutely do that. For sure you do that. And he's not wrong either. Tobe Hooper did direct the movie. But come on, man. It's just, and I'm not attacking Tobe Hooper. I like Tobe Hooper. I don't have anything against Tobe Hooper. But there's a reason why Poltergeist feels, smells, sounds, tastes so much like Spielberg. Do you feel Tobe Hooper really anywhere in the movie? I mean, maybe you might be able to pick out some shots or moment, but do you really feel him anywhere? I don't. But Spielberg is all over that film. And so that's how I've always felt. And nobody will ever, and I know that's a very hot take in the horror community, because horror fans think that you're diminishing Tobe Hooper's role on Poltergeist. And, depending on how you look at it, I am, but it's not personal. This is what I truly believe based on this, right? I'm not attacking Tobe Hooper. I'm not saying he didn't direct the movie. I'm just simply saying that Spielberg's influence, because of who he was at that time, is very heavy in that movie. And because Tobe Hooper was, moderately successful, not nearly as successful as Spielberg. Tobe Hooper didn't have a Jaws or a Close Encounters or a Raiders under his belt at that time. No, he had Texas Chainsaw and maybe Salem's Lot, right? Because I think he did Salem's Lot, right? Which is a TV movie, I think. I think he did Salem's Lot. Maybe I'm wrong. He had some success, but he wasn't Spielberg, and so, his influence is all over it. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I do not think it's a coincidence that Tobe Hooper was never able to achieve a Poltergeist type movie in terms of, just the movie itself, like the maturity of it, the execution, the characters, the acting, the directing. I don't think it's a coincidence that we never saw that again. I don't think it's a coincidence. That's not me saying he's not a good filmmaker. I just mean that I don't think it's a coincidence we never saw him, because you think if you deliver a Poltergeist type of movie, this is your, oh, wow, now he's on it. He didn't. It didn't transpire into a flourishing career. Anyway, that's how I feel about it. But I know it is a very hot topic because people think you're speaking ill of Tobe Hooper and you're saying that he's dog shit and that he's not capable. I'm not saying he's not capable. I'm just saying that, well, I've said it. Robert Kitzmiller says Poltergeist absolutely has that becoming of age Spielberg vibe to it. It does. Yeah, it does. And it's, and what did Tobe Hooper do after Poltergeist? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you get Poltergeist, then you do Texas Chainsaw 2? Like, what? I don't know. It's weird to me. It's just weird to me. He also had The Funhouse and Eaten Alive. He did. That's true. He did. Yeah, it's about influence. So if people say Spielberg directed that movie, it's like, no, Spielberg didn't direct the movie. Hooper did. But Spielberg's influence as a producer, as a hands-on, constantly in communication, visiting the set all the time because he was on the same lot, the same stage as E.T., or in the same area, because he was his influence was so heavy. That's what I'm saying. And that's why it feels like a Spielberg film. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense and I'm not attacked and shunned by the horror community. All right, have I missed any super chats? I don't think I have. I did. Brandon Collins. Hooper directed Poltergeist the same way Kirshner directed Empire. Lucas and Spielberg approached producing the same way that that job is done in TV. Yes. I see what you're saying. Although I would say that, I don't know. I would say that I feel Spielberg's, I get what you're saying, but I would say that I feel Spielberg's influence more than I feel Lucas's influence, if that makes sense. Although Lucas's influence is all over that movie as well. But that's not a bad comparison. I get what you're saying. Andrew Rollinson, what's going on, Andrew? 5 euros. No, 5 pounds, excuse me. Has anyone seen The Brutalist? I haven't. I'd love to see it, though. I love the cast, but a 3.5-hour film about architecture hasn't motivated me to go to the cinema. Yeah, it can be a bit tricky, but, you know what? You just got to set some time aside, get some popcorn, and check it out. Scott Beckett, what's going on? Scott sends in a $10 super chat. Thank you, Scott. Really appreciate that. Says, hey, Dave, checking in. Wanted to ask, what storyline would you do if Blumhouse asked you to make a Halloween spinoff about the killer in Russellville? I forgot his name. Charlie Bowles. Oh, I don't know, Scott. I would probably, I would go back and I would watch the original Halloween, especially specifically the graveyard scene with the caretaker, and listen to what the caretaker has said and write that down as sort of like I would, if I was tasked to write it, because obviously, directors don't always direct the scripts they write. I mean, I could find myself in a position one day where I'm being presented a script, being asked if I want to direct it, right? So, but if I'm being asked to also write it, which I don't know if I'd want to do, if I'm being totally honest, but if I'm being asked to write it, I would watch the caretaker scene in the original film. I would make notes. Okay, so his name's Charlie Bowles, Russellville. He's got a wife, 2 kids. I'd make these sort of bullet point notes and there's a sort of a moment that the caretaker talks about. And then I would ask myself, who is this person? How old are they? He refers to him as old Charlie Bowles, but that just could be an endearing reference, right? It's funny so I can't speak for anybody else, but when he says, I remember old Charlie Bowles. Well, he says old Charlie Bowles, you might think of somebody who's in their 60s or 70s. But then he says he kisses his wife and his 2 children goodbye. Okay, well, if he's kissing his wife and his 2 children goodbye, I immediately now think of somebody who's kissing his wife and 2 little kids who are like 7 and 10 or, or something. Well, if they're 7 and 10, he's probably not 70. So maybe he's 35. And it just old Charlie Bowles just means that it's an endearing thing. And now he's referring to him as old Charlie Bowles because it was 15 years ago. So it was a long time ago. Like he's old. Like he'd be old now, or so. I don't know. Like there's a lot of things I'd have to work through and break it down to find out who is Charlie Bowles, what's his relationship like with his wife and his kids, and what made him snap. Had he been doing this? Is he a serial killer? Is this the first time he snapped? That's interesting. Would his neighbors be shocked? Oh, the Bowles family, they were so nice and so sweet. And yeah, it just seems so, oh my God, it's so weird and so strange. And, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the story would be, but I would have to break it down and work through that and, figure it out essentially, right? Figure it out. Yeah. Went off on a tangent there about the poltergeist thing. Okay, did I get all the super chats, member chats? I believe I did. Lee the Machine Bowers there. I got that one. Okay, I just want to make sure, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I just got an email from Netflix saying a new device is using your account because I logged in on my computer here. That's funny. It's all right, Netflix. We're good. I usually log into Netflix on my TV. I never watch anything on here, but so they were doing their job. I did get yours. Oh, maybe that was coming from earlier. Oh, did you send in another one, Scott? No, it's just the one you sent in, which I got. Okay, that's good. Good. Let me see here. Aaron says, yeah, apparently titled 3.5 Hours is brutal. Yeah, you know what? But it depends. I am, some of my favorite movies. I mean, The Green Mile is a 3-hour film. The Green Mile, I think, is one of the greatest movies ever made. There's a lot of movies that come close to 3 hours. They're 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. I think it depends on the subject matter. Right? It depends on the story you're telling. And I don't think every movie, it's a rule of thumb that every movie needs to be 90 minutes or 2 hours. No, I think if the pacing is good, the pacing doesn't suffer, the story is involved and in depth, it's not going to appeal to a general movie-going audience. I mean, that's just the reality of it, right? The subject matter will also not appeal to a general movie-going audience. So if The Brutalist was, 90 minutes, it's still not going to be a box office, juggernaut, right? The subject matter is generally not populist movie-going experience, hot stuff, right? So, yeah, but I mean, but there's some great movies out there that are 3 hours long. I mean, Titanic was 3 hours long. Green Mile was 3 hours long. Wasn't Endgame 3 hours long? So I mean, the movie runtime should never be a deterrent, but like, as our viewer said, who was it that said that? Andrew. As Andrew Rawlinson said, Andrew Rawlinson is probably speaking from a place of everybody's talking about The Brutalist. It's been nominated for Academy Awards. So he wants to watch it because he knows it's probably going to be good, but it's 3.5 hours long and it's about architecture or, an architect. It's like, but you know what? Sometimes, folks, those are some of the best movies, because the characters are really well developed and the performances are great and the direction is great. And that's what movies are all about. Movies are not about big special, they can be, but sometimes we must remember too that stories that move us, that teach us things and that, have great characters and great chemistry. And sometimes those things can be great, so, watch a trailer, make up your mind, read a couple of reviews maybe, and sit down with some popcorn and watch it. You might find yourself going, holy shit, that was a great movie, because you got so lost into the story, and the characters. And sure, listen, I'll tell you this. This is true. True story. Now, I don't think it's not 3 hours long, but let me just Shawshank Redemption. I mean, The Shawshank Redemption is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a travesty that it has 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. That thing should be in the 90s at least. But 89% is still an amazing score. The Shawshank Redemption is, what is the length of that movie? It is, according to Wikipedia, it's 142 minutes. So it's 2 hours and, 20 minutes, let's say. So, it's a longer film. It was only about 15 years ago that my sister Jill saw The Shawshank Redemption. So to be fair, about 14 or 15 years after the movie had come out. And what was my sister Jill's hiccup? She had heard, it was then, as it is now, one of the greatest movies ever made. It's it's an amazing film. And my sister was totally honest with me and said, at that time, she said, I heard, I heard all the things, people, you got to watch, you haven't seen all the fun, all the things that happen, right? When, you haven't seen a movie that's supposed to be amazing. And she said, Dave, you want to know what it was? It's a prison movie. It's a prison movie. And I just had it in my head that it would be boring. It's about two guys in prison. Seriously. Or, that's right, yeah. That's it. Yeah, boring. Boring! She just had it in her head that I'm Shawshank Redemption, whatever. Well, about 15 years ago, we sat down, my sister and I think my mother did too. So it was when my mother was alive. So I think this was before 2011. I think. Maybe not. But it was in and around that time. And we sat down, we watched it, and she said, holy shit. She said, I can't believe it's taken me, 15, 16 years and whatever it was to watch this movie. It is phenomenal. And it became really clear to early, because the characters are, and now it's based on obviously a story by Stephen King, but it was adapted for the screen. But the characters are so well written and the performances are so great, right? That you get lost in the story. You just get lost in the story and you get, emotionally involved and you start rooting for the protagonist and, you really get into it, even though prison, so it could be a similar thing here. We're like, architecture, the brutalist. I don't know. It's got Adrian Brody. He's really good, but I don't know, man. I mean, even Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins couldn't sway my sister to watch that movie for 16 years. You know what I mean? And it's because psychologically you get this idea in your head that you're not going to enjoy it. Now, mind you, The Brutalist is nearly an hour longer than The Shawshank Redemption. But if it's as good as The Shawshank Redemption, I could have watched another hour of The Shawshank Redemption. That's how good The Shawshank Redemption is. You know what I mean? So, give it a shot. You never know. You never know. All right. You know what? We'll go another 10 minutes. We'll take this thing right to 2 hours. Ladies and gentlemen. Scared Straight Productions says, Dave, quick question. Do you put grain on your films? When you say, do I put grain on my films, are you talking about the two Billy films? And what specifically are you referring to if you are? So I'll just answer it. Actually, I'll just assume that that's what you are talking about. So when you watch It's Me, Billy, Chapter 1 and 2 on YouTube, during some of the darker scenes, you may notice what is known as color banding and maybe some, not pixelation, but you'll notice some sort of artifacts, color banding. That is not, that would be like any movie that you were to watch that was uploaded to YouTube by means of how we did it. You would, because that's why some Hollywood trailers and things like that too look kind of muddy in the dark scenes and when you watch them. That is because YouTube compresses the file. So the movie in the timeline, when we're editing, the movie as the actual file, the movie that you will get on Blu-ray when we send you the Blu-rays, those issues won't be there. But YouTube compresses the image in order to be able to because YouTube has so much, I mean, they have millions and millions and millions of videos that are uploaded every day. So they need to compress the image. And when they compress the image, it's most noticeable during the darker scenes, right? And so maybe that's what you're referring to when you say that. That some of the darker scenes look a bit muddy, or if I'm watching it, you know, on YouTube or something like that. Now, if you're watching it on your phone, it's perfectly fine. You won't notice it really on your phone or on your laptop, or, but if you're watching it on YouTube on your big screen, you have to make sure that it's on the highest resolution, which is, I think it's 2K, I believe. We finished in 2K because it was shot in 2K, because we were, again, stylistically, we wanted to feel more like the original film. And 2K is higher than HD. So, it's 1440, I believe. And so make sure you're watching it at least that too, because sometimes YouTube will default to something that's lower and you're like, what the fuck? So maybe that's what you're referring to. That is also why I have made the recommendation that if you're going to watch it on a big screen, you watch it via the Vimeo link. So the Vimeo link, Vimeo compresses images. Vimeo will not compress your video file as much. And so that's why movies will look better on Vimeo than they do YouTube. So when you watch the darker scenes on It's Me, Billy Chapter 1 or Chapter 2 on Vimeo, it'll look way better than they look on YouTube. Not that they look bad on YouTube. They don't look bad. But I'm just saying, depending on the size of your screen, you may notice some color banding. And that's not, it's not because it was poorly shot, or we didn't know what we were doing. Anybody who uploads, any dark movie you upload to YouTube will have that issue. And that's just YouTube's compression. You cannot avoid it. You can try tricks. You can try uploading, certain movies and doing this and certain codecs and finish it. You can try tricks, but at the end of the day, YouTube is going to compress your image no matter what. But Vimeo compresses it less. I see what you're saying. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. So now having said all that, like, remember, It's Me, Billy, the Chapter 2 and 1, they were professionally shot, cinematic grade cameras, lenses. It's the same shit you see any major film, being shot on. Right. And so, however, having said all that, you are correct that, we did put a little bit of grain on Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. And we did that just a touch, just a smidgy, just a little smidgy. Now, the grain, the little tiny bit of grain, was for two reasons. Number one, the first reason is, again, aesthetically, we wanted it to feel a little more like film, even though it's not film. Just there's a little bit of that essence there, a little bit of that tinge, a little bit of that tickle, so it kind of has a little bit of that older school kind of vibe, and also adding a little bit of grain. Not too much, because then it's like, what the fuck is this, right? But adding just a little bit can help with the color banding because of YouTube's compression. And so that was another reason why we did it. But yeah, so you are very perceptive. You are astute. There is a little bit, just a smidge, not a lot, but just a little bit of grain on the picture, just to give it a little bit of that older feel. It's not something that you would necessarily notice consciously, although you obviously did. But it's something, it's part of the cinematic language that hopefully seeps into your subconscious and you sort of just kind of, look at it. But yeah, so it's yeah, those are the two things. But watching both movies, like on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop even, perfectly fine on YouTube. Like you're not gonna, it's really only if you're gonna blow it up, because some people have like big projection screens, right? And there was somebody that actually said, I watched it on my projection screen on YouTube and it looked amazing. It looked fine. I'm like, oh, okay, great. That's great. That's great. I'm really glad to hear that. But I always make the recommendation that if you're gonna watch it on a big screen, do it on Vimeo, or if you get the Blu-ray, do it that way, because then you'll be able to see how it's, it's full intention, right? Rather than watching something that YouTube has to compress in order to, not crash because of all the movies, all the videos. I mean, look at all the videos they're uploading each and every day. I mean, there's billions and billions and billions of videos on YouTube, so they have to compress it, and that's why some of the darker scenes you'll notice a bit of that color banding. But that's not a reflection of the quality of the work or the finished product. That's just YouTube. Every movie or trailer that gets uploaded to YouTube has that. A couple more minutes. Fauci Cinema. What's going on, Fauci? It's great to see you here, Fauci. Josh McKenna sends in a member chat. Thank you, Josh, and says, have you ever had a dream about a movie you watched? I had a dream I was married to Elizabeth Shue. Is that it? Elizabeth Shue, I'm assuming. It was an arranged marriage. Can you imagine? No, I've never had a dream about a movie I just watched. I've never had a dream about Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, or Jason Voorhees. Never. I've never had a movie about being chased by a serial killer from a movie. I've had nightmares, of course, about being chased and things like that, but nothing from like a serial killer from a movie or something. I can't say that. Have I had a dream about an actress I thought was hot? I don't think so. I've never had dreams about like Jennifer Love Hewitt, or I'm trying to think back in the day who I thought was, I don't know. I haven't. I mean, I've had dreams about girls I've liked, when you're in high school and college. Obviously, I've had dreams about, because they're real, right? They're tangible in your life, so they're more in your subconscious. But no, I've never ever had a dream about a movie I've watched that I can remember anyway, or about a horror movie. Like, some people have nightmare, like you watch Terrifier or something, and then you have a dream that Art the Clown is chasing you. Never. I've watched any horror movie I've ever watched. I've been able to go to bed and sleep soundly. I've never, like I've had nightmares where there's been monsters, but they're just random monsters. It's not Michael Myers. It's not. Now, having said that though, one of my arch nemesis when I was a kid, and I've talked about this before, was the mascot for Iron Maiden, Eddie. But I've never had a dream of Eddie again since I left my childhood home in the 80s. I used to have a reoccurring dream, and Eddie is fucking awesome. Like, I loved Eddie. I don't know why he was so hell-bent on killing me in my dream, but I loved Eddie. I loved the way he looked and how he looked different on, different albums and things like that. I loved Eddie, and I still love Eddie. He's a fucking wicked-ass mascot, man. He looks awesome. But I used to have a reoccurring dream where I would come out of my bedroom, I'd walk into the kitchen. This is my childhood home. I'd walk into the kitchen, I'd come to the basement stairs, and my feet all of a sudden would, just like I had no control over my body. I'd run down the stairs and I'd run towards where my brothers used to sleep in the basement and where I used to watch all my 80s movies. And I would start running towards their bedroom, and there'd be like this dark room. There wasn't really a door on their room. It was like a rec room, and they kind of had like these kind of, not like a door, but these other kind of doors. And it was dark in there, and I'd run. And then Eddie would come out of the darkness going, and I was like, ah! I used to have that. It was a reoccurring dream. The only reoccurring dream I've ever had. And I haven't had it since I left that house in November of 1988, nearly 40 years ago. Another Eddie dream I had was when I was lying in bed and I rolled over, and right by my nightstand was Eddie going like, like that. And I don't know. I used to just dream of Eddie all the time. So like that, but he's not a movie. He's not a killer in a movie. Like I've never had a dream about Freddy Krueger, or Jason or Michael or Chucky or Ghostface, Leatherface, Pinhead, whatever, Leprechaun, whatever. Never. I never have. Art the Clown, never. It's weird. but I just haven't. It's kind of strange. Elizzy Sue, Demi Moore's character in The Substance. Oh, right. Elizzy Sue. Sorry. I thought you were just shortening it. Elizabeth Shue. Elizzy Sue. Okay, I get it now. I get it. Okay. That's really fun. No, I never have. That's really funny. Well, that must have had a big effect on you, Josh. Must have had a big effect on you. That's really funny. Let me see here. Brandon Collins says, I used to have a reoccurring dream about the killer from Curtains. Oh, yes. Oh, played by the lovely Lynn Griffin. Instead of skating toward me on ice, they were coming toward me in a grocery store aisle. Just as the scythe, was about to hit, I woke up. Ooh, grocery store aisle with all the there's a lot of props in a grocery store aisle that could fall onto the ground and shit and all that stuff. That's really, I like that. That's good. Scared Straight Production says, nah, Dave, your movies look great. Just wondering, I put 35 millimeter grain on my stuff and Super 16 grain riches the footage. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes. Okay. I understand. Yeah, totally. It was, shooting the two Billy films was my first time. I mean, I've shot on 16. I've shot on, full HD, prosumer shit. But getting the opportunity to shoot on, the Ariel X's with Master Prime lenses, true cinematic grade, Hollywood cameras, was amazing. And I learned a lot by working with our DP and watching him work and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And I look forward to obviously working with that level of gear again. It was really cool and a really great learning experience. But yeah, that's the only drawback, especially for a dark horror movie. I mean, if I was doing a comedy or a brightly lit drama, who cares, right? But horror movies, one of the drawbacks of finishing on YouTube, and that's when you say finishing, of course, and you probably know this, is where it ends up, right? We're not finishing in the movie theaters, right? We're finishing on YouTube and Vimeo. The only drawback to shooting on cinematic grade gear and cameras with lenses. I mean, our camera package alone, between the camera body and the lenses, just our camera package, the replacement cost was $1 million. That's just the camera package. So, I mean, this is the shit, that we're dealing with here. And the only drawback to finishing on YouTube, obviously, is when you do a horror movie, is the compression. But thankfully, because we are shooting at such, with such high quality, the compression is not that bad. You know what I mean? Some people have said, I can see it a little bit, but it's fine. It's fine. And I'm like, okay, good. But I always leave that note, and you'll see that note at the top of each film. If you're going to watch it on a gigantic screen, watch it on, I just want to have the option there just in case somebody's not setting something right. You know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff. It can be tricky. It can be really tricky, but yeah. Cool stuff indeed. Jacob Corntho says, I had a dream that was similar to the scene in Repulsion, where arms were sticking out from the walls. Not sure how much of the film influenced it. Probably a lot. I would say probably a lot. All right. Well, listen. Okay, I didn't miss any super chats. Didn't miss any member chats, I don't believe, right? I don't believe I did. No. Okay. All right, folks. Well, listen, that is going to do it for me here on this episode of McRae Live. If you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on anything I had to say here today. I really appreciate you tuning in. Every now and then I like to just have these all Q&A shows. I know I do a Q&A at the end of every topic show, but sometimes it's nice to sit down for, a couple of hours where it's just nothing but Q&A, just shooting the shit, having some fun. you know, it's fun. It's fun to do. But I appreciate the super chats that came in, the member chats that came in as well. I appreciate all of you, of course. If you want to follow me on social media, the links are all in the description. I will be back soon with another stream, another show very soon. So yeah, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you tuning in, and have yourselves a great rest of your Saturday and a great rest of your weekend. I will talk to you all very soon. Alrighty. In the meantime, in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.